Hey, what's up? Zach here, and today I've got the all-new Puma Scoot Zeros 2. Let's get into them. Now, the Scoot Zeros 2, to me, occupy a pretty interesting position in the basketball, tennis, and pickleball space. Although, yeah, they're designed for basketball, of course. The design of them really does adapt itself to a lot of different use cases. So these are interesting shoes. Starting off in the uppers, the first thing you'll notice here is these two winglets on the lace line, which really serve an interesting purpose to tickle your ankle and make you feel like you're going nuts. But if you don't have as high volume of an ankle, or if you don't evert as much, I'm not gonna notice it, but I did notice these things like tickling me. So I could just cut it if you want. But in all seriousness, the lace line is outrigger, and then it does have integrated lace eyelets at the very tip. Now you can make a runner's knot out of these. I didn't, and I still had very, very mild heel slippage in these things. Honestly, a very secure and confident lockdown, even without using a runner's knot. The one thing I noticed is that even though the tongue has double thickness padding in it, it bunches up like crazy when you tie it down, and it's hard to stop. It's not bad, it's just you just notice it there for a little while, and when it breaks in, it mellows out a little bit, but it still does bunch. It does have a really high gusset to it. I mean, the tongue is secure, right? I mean, the lockdown is secure, so it's not bad. It's just, I just noticed with this tongue that even though it seems like it's gonna be really kind of luxurious and comfortable and bear hugging, it can just bunch up a little bit up there. Now, speaking of that tongue, you look at this thing on the breathability test, it did heat up 114.1 degrees. And you can kind of tell it's just all paneling. I mean, there is some textile mesh honeycombing on the sides, and the tongue has honeycombing on the outside of it. It doesn't have it on the inside. So there's nowhere for that heat and moisture to go. And if you look at the breathability mapping of these, in a lot of cases, even if the gusset of the tongue is high, the fog still gets out of the sides of the tongue. It was even having trouble getting out of the sides of the tongue in this one. So not a lot of egress for moisture on these things. Now, it does come with really nice side-to-side containment. The one other thing I noticed though is with that tongue, front to back containment was where I noticed it lacking. Side to side was great. Now, I do think that has a little bit to do with the shape of the shoe, so we'll talk about that in the fit section, but front to back containment I think is where you can start to see a little bit of And speaking of that containment, look at these things on the upper durability test, 10-second ties, grit sandpaper. Honestly, the burr does start to work through this pretty good. You do get a lot of outsole rubber there that comes up over the uppers, and it is double thickness in the toe box, so I still think it'd be okay. On indoor courts especially, but on outdoor courts, just because there's a lot protecting it. Honestly, I don't think these will do terrible, but they will start looking weird if you're dragging on pretty gritty outdoor courts. But getting into the midsole teardown, nice surprise. These things have a full bed of nitro foam, and this feels a little bit more lively than some other integrated Puma shoes, meaning non-drop-in midsole Puma shoes. And then they have a double thickness top-loaded shank that actually does cross from the rear foot into the midfoot. I mean, this thing is a stout, supportive shank, and these things have quite a bit going on in terms of really stout feelings underfoot. These things on the bounce height test too, 37 centimeters in the rear foot, 36 in the forefoot. I mean, no joke. I mean, this stuff is lively. And honestly, I've gotten used to Puma shoes kind of feeling a little bit bottom heavy. They're stable for sure, bottom stable, but also kind of bottom heavy, more ground assault shoes. Like I said, they still do not feel like the most nimble things on the planet. Buttery, but like not nimble. I'll talk about it when we get to the fit and the playability. I mean, no, they're not the Rise Nitro, but for what you pay for in these, you get a surprising amount of liveliness and pop out of them, and as well as support from the shank. But getting into the outsole tread, just kind of along the same lines of pleasantly surprised. It is an entire bed of herringbone. You do get pivot points on the medial and lateral side, just breaking up that herringbone. Thing is, they have an initial grip of 47 centimeters on the grip test ramp. And honestly, they don't really pick up that much dust. I thought they'd be dust magnets, just how tacky they were. And another thing is they're silent on court. So they're really kind of, I mean, in all ways, a really stealthy, kind of under the radar, good gripping shoe. I mean, even from initial grip to grip after half hour, 45 minutes, even on a dusty court like mine, they still did not give out ever. And they also didn't feel like you were peeling tape off the ground either. It was honestly really, really confidence inducing and just really consistent. And that's not something you get with some flagship shoes, which I just thought was really, really nice. And also the lateral flange on these things, really wide, broad. Like I said, stopping power on these things side to side. It is really fantastic, once again, especially for the price of them. Now, you look at these things on the speed ratio, they come in at a 2.43, shank score of 0.4, extremely well earned. So, 2.83, I mean, yeah, I think that's where they belong in terms of side-to-side speed, in terms of sneaky speed, in terms of speed for a shoe that's like really bottom stable, same as other Puma shoes. So I think relative to their pedigree in terms of Puma, I think, yeah, they're really rocket ships. Like I said, when we get into the fit, that's where I think that's what kind of takes the speed down, because on that ladder, I was noticing I was really starting to kind of lose my footwork at times with them. So like I said, there are some downsides, but not a lot, especially in terms of the price. Yeah, very quick side-to-side shoes and decent enough going north to south. Like these things on the outsole durability test, 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper, and I didn't get a millimeter of damage. The durometer is only 13.5 on these, so it's not super hard rubber, but I know I've been getting asked a lot of questions is why is Puma not in the tennis space anymore? Because they used to make a lot of tennis shoes, or why aren't they doing pickleball? Or why aren't they really kind of diving headfirst into that space? Honestly, the Scoot Zeros 2 are a very good tennis and pickleball shoe. I mean, these are better than a lot of just regular tennis and pickleball shoes. So if you're looking for a basketball shoe you can take on indoor courts, you can take on outdoor courts, and you can play tennis and pickleball in, I think it's these. And it's really something nice to see. Now, of course, the rubber is going to wear down faster than a super high durometer outsole tennis rubber, but in terms of performance, grip, how they move side to side on a tennis court, honestly, I think they move better on a tennis and pickleball court than they even do on a basketball court in terms of the footwork for those three sports. So really, for whatever you're putting these through, for the versatility, for the price, once again, fantastic. All right, but getting into the real crux of the Scoot Zero 2s, and I think this is kind of going to be the dividing line. Look at these things. They do have an in-flare of 13 degrees, which is kind of getting up there. And then they come in just a hair long at 28.9 centimeters in length, 9.7 centimeters of metatarsal width, 10.7 centimeters of toe box width, and the toe box taper, pretty mellow, only 25 degrees. So they are forgiving shoes, very forgiving shoes. That also means that they can be a little bit clunky, because they're just, like I said, hair long, a little bit more of an in-flare distally. So number one, they need broken in for sure. There's a lot of bending and snapping at the beginning. They need broken in. And I think you just need to have a higher volume foot to fill them out. And at that point, you do a lot better. I have a C-shaped foot. So I like wide fit shoes for sure. But these ones are just, they just didn't fit me perfectly. If you've got a higher volume foot and you fit into them really well, I think then some of the front to back containment isn't gonna be an issue for you and those things. So I'd say a narrow foot, you can go down a half size for sure. A medium foot, you wanna go down a half size, go for it, get a little more weight reduction, a little more glove-like fit. I think that's awesome. A 2E, I'd just go true to size. 4E, I would just go true to size just to get that more glove-like fit. And on these ones, I maybe consider putting a little piece of moleskin under the tongue just to fill them out maybe a little bit more, just to maybe prevent a little bit more of that front to back containment, because that's really the only thing I see wrong with these. In terms of snake bitten foot, they hold orthotics fine. They're supportive enough on their own. Ankle sprainers, fantastic, because they have so much side to side containment. So this is a really nice all around shoe, especially with an orthotic in it. So really, I think a little bit of moleskin under the tongue should be just fine. And so that fit profile really brings me directly into the performance of them. When I was just hitting layups, going around doing my circles, doing my normal routine, they honestly didn't feel clunky. They were fine. They honestly felt great going side to side. They felt great sidestepping, step backs, really confident. They really had a nice push off, from one foot, kind of changing directions. I thought the change of direction on these, that kind of performance was out of this world. The one place I found them to be, I wasn't super in love with them, was, like I said, on the ladder. I just felt like even the hardened volume 9s, which are a lot heavier than these and should be a lot more clunky, did better. They were more nimble shoes on that drill. So I just feel like in terms of very, very nimble short court footwork, where you're kind of just up on the balls of your feet and trying to make it just micro adjustments, and you really need all the room you can get, right? You're squeezing everything out of those little centimeters. That's where I feel like these things just felt a little bit clunky to me. I think if you fill the shoe out more than I do, I think you do a lot better, right? Really high volume, flat foot in these. I don't think experience is that problem. And like I said, I didn't really experience it playing basketball or going side to side playing pickleball. It was when I was very, very confined in that ladder that I was just, because I had these I was playing with these kind of in tandem with the Hardens for a while, and I could just notice that even a shoe a little bit heavier was doing better. And I actually had the Hardens on second, so I was even a little bit more tired when I was in the Hardens at one point than these, and they still kind of felt a little bit more nimble. So what you get out of these, I think, just vastly outweighs that little issue with them. So especially, like I said, for the price and the versatility, can't go wrong. And honestly, I thought the Scoot Zero 1s were good. these were a clear step up. And I keep saying this, for what you pay for these shoes versus what they give back to you, the value of them, just because that price to performance ratio out of these things. So yeah, I think, like I said, small modifications to them, and I think they do fantastic. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you do want to see another Puma shoe that I feel like goes the opposite direction to these, the All Pro Nitro Elite, which comes in at $250 retail, which is a very interesting price point for that shoe. If you kind of want to see, I'd watch that video, then watch this, and kind of see what the differences are between the shoes and see kind of which one you would want to buy, because this to me has the best parts of the Pro Nitro Elite with none of the downsides of it. So if you want to see that video, make sure you click into this video up above and subscribe down below. Respect, Rubber and Foam. I'll see you somewhere in the Sneakerverse.